It's a new season of Yellowstone, and the show has a different direction of where it's headed, with John now being governor and those who want to do nothing but to stop him. We're already looking forward, in my opinion, to an incredible season, to what is a really surprising ending. For sure is going to affect the direction of the characters. We have a lot to discuss on the first episode of season 5, titled 100 Years is Nothing. And this is shown in the speech that John does after winning governor. The whole episode is centered around this, and moving into the future episodes is something that we're going to continue to see. What I love about this is that makes the show feel fresh and different. In a way, it's not something that we have seen from season 1 to 4, where it's just John against people who want the ranch. But in this episode, more how he's going to protect it with being governor and different problems that are going to appear, like we see in episode 2. Something we already seen is him managing governor as well as the responsibilities of the ranch. It also means leaving a part of him behind. In that scene with Carter, where he can no longer have those morning horse rides, show how life is changing. This is something that we saw in the last season, where he used to go with Casey in those horse rides. Now, episode 1 begins with the election results, and this is a moment where the character of John is quiet before all goes in another direction, as we get to see. We meet him in a space enjoying the final moments of peace, and I feel that in that moment, John knows that everything is about to change. This can be seen in the reflection to the side of the screen, which shows two different Johns, the one that he has to leave behind and the one that he has to accept now. John says that this is not joy, but if it's not joy, then what is it? I feel it's sadness knowing that everything that he loves has to be pushed to the side. This is when he receives a call from his rival Scott. Bev says that after the speech, I'm going to give you a double, something that we see later as she puts a drink for both him and Jamie. John becomes the governor and they focus on the speech of Scott. He says, when I moved to Montana 9 years ago, I fell in love with the mountains, its rivers, big skies, and I fell in love with its people. This is the exact same thing that John says. Now we see Jamie sitting alone, as we know he's a character that has gone through a lot, and this season more as we get to see that. He knows that he now has to do anything for Bev and John, and in a way he feels alone. After last season, he's no longer going to be in control, and this is something that we see in this episode as well as in episode 2. I also enjoy the propaganda in the background where it says John for the land, but really it's for his land. Later, when he is in the car with Bev and Jamie, he says that he's working and fighting for Yellowstone, and that goes first. Now, I feel Jamie knows that he was meant to be governor, something that we see in the car as well, and that it was supposed to be him. Jamie wants to introduce his dad, but in reality, he wants to feel what it was to be governor for a moment. The speech of John again is something that we hear, and is similar to the one that Scott did. Throughout this, we get to see Jamie and Bev looking at each other, and he knows that she's going to control him. Now, John being governor is going to affect others, including Rainwater, who knows that John is going to stop the airport and the hotel. But of course, how is going to be good for them? I'm really looking forward to seeing this season. Now, Caroline is mad. The family is now unstoppable, and as we get to see, John is going to stop the construction of their hotel. However, there's a way in, with this being Jamie. I believe they're going to use Jamie somehow, and it's something that we may see this season. Makes me believe that by the end of the season, Jamie can be in jail, but that's just a theory for another day. Now, Jamie is sad, and we see that he's worried about everything that's going to happen. And as we get to see, Caroline is going to use Jamie. Now, Sarah is a new character that we're going to be introduced in episode 2. She will go against John and the family. In my opinion, she's going to be the new villain of this season. Now we have the first flashback of the season, and that is of Bev and Rick. We follow the characters young and the aspiration of Rick wanting to be the top hand, something that we see the character later on in the present. This is young Bev before she goes to college, and we'll see them in their bad years of their relationships. They were not even in a relationship during that time. But this is following the events that happened in the episode. It connects to how she feels regrets for everything that she did during that time. We also see the evolution of the bunkhouse and what it was like during that time. Outside, we see the date of Bev and Rick, and this was something nice to see as we get to see later relationship has changed. But of course, it was a rocky beginning. We also see how Bev has been smart and has always done whatever to get ahead and to get what she wants. This scene connects to what she says later to Rick that she caused some pain to him. Of course, decision affect the path ahead, and this is shown in how she decided to stay and went home with the other guy. Beth was mean, and this is to show the perspective of Rick and to understand more about how the evolution of Beth is something that we're gonna see this season. In the future, we see how the relationship has changed, and years later, how she feels the regret for all the things she did. Of course, this is only one of the things that is shown, but we see the growth of the characters. Rick has also changed and used the best words of encouragement and positivity. This scene and this whole conversation was so sweet, and honestly, what's one of my favorite things in this episode. They finally found something that they love and fight for. But of course, Rick says that he has to find something that makes her happy. What that's gonna be? That's something that I imagine we're gonna see this season. Now the ranch is preparing for the celebration for the party, and we see how Rick is top hand. He has a lot of respect for the ranch, and he knows his place. This is something that we see in the governor first meeting. We get to see John ideals and his way of thinking. He knows that he has to bring those who he trusts, and of course it's gonna be Beth, and of course Jamie as well. John has to focus on the power he has during those 4 years, and the next seasons are going to be really interesting connecting to this. Moving into Casey, who continues to work as a livestock agent, and we have the first action sequence of the episode where he's helping to capture some stolen horses, and this scene was amazing. This scene was one of my favorite scenes of the whole episode as well. There were so many horses and so many action sequences that it makes the whole episode perfect. They really went big in this episode. And this scene was beautifully shot, and I truly enjoy seeing such a huge action sequence in the first episode. This was really important moving into what happens at the end. The last 30 minutes of the episode are the celebration of John being governor, and in the scene where John becomes governor, this is something that really important because he waited a lot of time to say the words. I feel that he knows that it's not something for him, and there's some regret. Something that we see in the car where he says that Jamie was supposed to do that. This was one of my favorite scenes of the episode, as we feel that we were there waiting for him to talk. We get to see how Angela really feels about all of this as well, and of course, showing how everyone feels that they could have stopped John, but now he's powerful. John gives his speech, and the first thing he does is to cancel the airport. Caroline knew that this was going to happen as we get to see this, and some taxes changes. Now Jamie has different opinions about this, and I'm excited to see the fights that are going to appear this season. In the car, we finally get that drink, and Jamie asks for one drink, and we get to see how Beth feels about Jamie. The scene was hilarious, and it also was one of my favorite, and it shows how John feels about Jamie not being governor. In a way, it's a sad scene because it's the future of Jamie is going to be destroyed. They know that there's sacrifice that they're going to do of Jamie now being controlled by Beth and John. We know that Caroline is going to use Jamie. How? I cannot wait to see more of. But John has priorities, and that always is going to be the ranch. John appreciates the driver, loving the ranch and the land. Connecting to the beginning of the episode in the bunkhouse, we have a hilarious scene, and Rick continues to be top hand. The last minute of the episode is a celebration of the governor, and this scene was huge as well. The last part of the episode is when Casey has to rush to the hospital due to Monica going into labor. However, the episode ends with a tragedy, with her having an accident. I feel this decision of Casey saying no to waiting, and the whole thing about this is that I feel that this is going to move the relationship of Monica and Casey into destruction. This scene was heartbreaking and for sure set up episode 2 really well. Monica should have stopped driving and pulled to the side, but continues to drive, of course. This whole scene is for her to have an accident, and it's a super sad scene with how Tate says that it was going to be John, the baby boy. And this scene, I feel so sad about everything that's happening to the characters. Of course, John has 2 different responsibilities now, so this is something to add, not to his life, but to him being governor. He has to now publicly talk about this, so it's going to be a sad season. And moving into episode 2, we see that. And this was an incredible episode. I'm super excited to break down every episode each week. You can check out the breakdown of episode 2 here, as well as my episode 3 promo breakdown. But what are your thoughts in the first episode of Yellowstone Season 5? Leave your comments below. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Christian from BM Premiere, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.